I'll start it.
You start it, sir.
I'll start
you
it.
start it, sir.
That's Tyler.
That's Joseph.
And this is Super Squad D.
Where the D stands for Drive-In. Welcome back to another Riverdale recap. I know you're glad to be here. I sure am.
This is episode 4 of Riverdale, which means this is the 4th time that we have reviewed an episode of Riverdale. In this episode, we have the return of our favorite character, expository dialogue.
Wow. Rude!
Do you see what I did? I expository dialogued the intro.
So what we're going to do in this review / recap, I'm going to give you a little recap. We're going to talk about things we liked and we didn't like. And then we're going to explain to you our fan theories. And I use the word fan very strongly because we both equally love this show and are fans of it.
He speaks truth.
It's true.
He enjoys watching it. I enjoy when it's over.
Starting off this episode, we see that Jughead Jones has immediately got a problem that he wants fixed. He's very upset. He's found out that someone's buying the drive-in theater where he works. As the viewers, we're wondering why this is so important to him, but he explains that he and his sister used to go there a lot, and it was just a really nice place for him and a lot of good memories, and he loves working there.
As well, he also explains, while staring wistfully out the window, the drive-in theater has been owned by the city for a long time, but they've never invested money into it, so now an anonymous buyer has come in and is going to tear it down. Expository dialogue.
Wow. So Jughead, obviously against this happening, decides he's going to get to the bottom of who the anonymous buyer is, and he spends the majority of the episode trying to do a little sleuthing. Betty in this episode decides that she's still not okay with what she found out about Miss Grundy and Archie.
Which is shocking. It just seems like something everyone should just get over pretty quickly.
That's right. One thing to note is that this whole episode reminds us that it's only been 1 week since the beginning of the school year. So we've had a lot of emotional turmoil for Betty in just 1 week. She went from looking forward to getting together with Archie, to confessing her love, to getting rejected, to totally being okay with him being with someone else and not her, all in the span of a week. There's been a lot of this going on with Betty. So Betty decides she's going to look into Miss Grundy a little more. Archie tells her not to, they get into kind of a fight, but she's going to be persistent and figure it out. Meanwhile, Veronica has her own little issues going on with her mom. Veronica is told by Cheryl, who overhears Veronica's mom arguing with a Southside Serpent, which is a really, really bad gang. You don't want to be messing with the Southside Serpents, I can tell you that much right now.
Has there ever been a more stereotypical gang than the Southside Serpents? The reason they're bad is because they're from the south side of town.
What? At least they're not from the west side.
Oh, that's very true.
That could be more stereotypical. You don't want to be from the west side. You don't want to have any stories either. Betty decides to do some undercover work, and that involves breaking into Miss Grundy's car. They break in, she uses some quick detective work and lockpicking skills. She finds a gun and an ID that says Jennifer Gibson. Uh-oh, Miss Grundy's not who she said she was. She had also done some research, as I want to point out earlier, to look for Miss Grundy, and it turns out the only Miss Grundy she found was a really old lady, the real Miss Grundy!
She looked exactly like the comics. It was hilarious.
I was so happy that she was there. Thank you. Thank you, real Miss Grundy.
2 things bother me here. Why is Miss Grundy keeping all of her most important, valuable information in a tiny box in her car? And secondly, why does Betty take the gun with her and then hide it in a drawer where her mom's just gonna find it easily when she puts back her laundry?
Yeah, I'm with you. Betty decides to confront Archie with these facts. She tells him what happens. Archie confronts Grundy. Archie finds out that Grundy was actually married before, or so she claims, and she was in an abusive relationship. She changed her name to run from her ex-husband, and that's how she ended up here. This all kind of comes to a head when Betty's mom finds Betty's diary, which was, again, not very well hidden.
Nope.
And I gotta say, if you write a diary and you're a teenager, A, don't put all of this type of stuff in your diary if you don't want people to know. Or B, at least hide it better.
Yeah.
Because you're just asking for it. Like, Betty, you're so freaking stupid. You're freaking stupid, Betty.
Get a diary with a lock on it.
Freaking stupid.
Get a
So
diary
Betty's
with a lock
mom reads it, and what is the one thing that Betty's mom always is telling her?
Well, she actually brought it up 3 times in this episode, I counted, but she always says, don't associate with Archie or Veronica.
So she's really excited to find out that she now has concrete dirt on Archie, that he's not a good boy. So she goes to Archie's dad, they go all confront Miss Grundy, and Miss Grundy's with Archie. Basically, it all blows up, and she's going to turn in Miss Grundy. Miss Grundy's going to go to jail. Obviously, she's doing things that are quite illegal with Archie.
Yeah.
And Betty can see that it's paining Archie, so she sacrifices and she says, look, Mom, if you do this, I'm going to say I'm crazy, I'm going to say that I made it all up, and everyone's going to hate me and hate you like they all hate Polly. So, in the end, she decides, all right, it's enough to just let Miss Grundy leave. That'll appease my anger towards Archie and his family. His dad, just some reason, agrees to it.
Totally fine.
He's just like, fine.
He's into it.
And so Miss Grundy agrees to leave first thing in the morning, and she's gone. Flash over to Jughead's storyline. Jughead tries to figure out really hard who is buying the movie theater. Really this big mystery, and we find out that it's actually Veronica's mom, Hermione. Hermione bought the theater and the land surrounding it because it was really decreasing in value because the Southside Serpents had trashed the place and had run all of the good Riverdale people out of town. I don't know. This was at the behest of her husband, who's in jail for committing all this fraud, and she's kind of running his operations. She buys it. She pays out the Southside Serpents. There's a little bit of a riff or confrontation with them. That kind of gets a little bit resolved. They go their separate ways, but you know there's going to be more beef with the Southside Serpents.
No doubt.
And the very end of the episode, we find out that Jughead, as he's leaving the theater for the last time, has been living there. And he's homeless now. As he's walking out, a Southside Serpent member comes up, and it's kind of this ominous shot. You're not sure what's about to happen. And it's revealed that it's his dad.
Forsyth Jones II. I've already said it before on this very video, but the expository dialogue is back in full force in this episode. You have, of course, Jughead explaining what's happening with the drive-in. Later on, you have a moment in which Jughead confronts Archie's dad concerning his own father, and the whole situation is explained in the way that they dialogue. So, you already destroyed the livelihood of one Jones, you want to do it to the other one, because you fired my dad because he worked for you. And Archie's dad goes, your father was stealing things from the work site. That's why I had to fire him.
Well, he was stealing.
And that's why he had to fire him. And of course, at one point, Hermione Lodge wanders into the mayor's office with a bag full of cash and goes, here's a donation to make sure that we're the ones that end up getting the property that the drive-in theater is located on because it's of high value. And the mayor's like, yes, this bribe is going to go towards that very thing that you mentioned. Thank you for bringing it to me.
It wasn't as bad as that.
It wasn't as good as it could have been.
Well, no, I agree with that.
And how big of a town is Riverdale in which the mayor needs that much money for a re-election campaign, and there's an entire biker gang that's on the south side of town? Like, what's the scale of this place? I thought it was supposed to be a small town. Isn't Hermione Lodge like, oh, we have to move back to little old Riverdale?
Yeah,
and as it turns out, there's like organized crime? What is this?
Yeah, it's a little confusing. Going back to the first episode when they all show up to like the river and they see that Jason's body's been found, and all we see are like the main characters and their families. Like, was there no one else in the town? I guess. I don't know. One of the best lines in this episode comes from Hermione to put Cheryl in her place. Cheryl's giving her some lip at the diner, and she walks over to her and she says, Cheryl, I went to school with your mom. She didn't know the difference in having money or class either. Burn! Oh. On fire, Hermione!
Second best line comes from Veronica. It's all in the Lodge family, who also directs it at Cheryl and says, don't worry, you may be a stock character from a 90s teen movie, thereby breaking the fourth wall and getting us into the minds of the writers of Riverdale when they were coming up with these characters to begin with.
Wow, that is cold-hearted. One of the things I liked about this episode was the great set design. The drive-in theater and the surrounding areas really did have a really nice tone to it where you felt like, okay, this is a really well-done tone that fits with the emotional story that Jughead Jones went through in the episode, I felt like.
There's a reason behind that. The Twilight Drive-In actually is a real drive-in theater in British Columbia, and they went there on location to film, so that was a pretty cool little touch that they included it as the Twilight Drive-In.
That is cool.
I don't know much about it other than that, but you can find their Facebook page, and there's pictures of production going on.
One of the things I found really interesting in this episode is that they never really could decide, and maybe this was intentionally the director's choice, but I couldn't really tell, is Grundy the victim, or is she the victimizer? Is she the villain here, or is she the victim? Because on the one hand, we see her as this victim from a marriage, if what she said is true, spousal abuse and on the run from a crazy husband, and that's really sad, and you feel for her character. But then on the other hand, you see, even up at the end of the episode, After all she's done with Archie and somewhat to Archie, you see her, she kind of like tilts her sunglasses down as some more boys run by. Again, I'm not really sure how old they are.
I think it was implied that they were probably high school age as well.
Okay, it's hard to tell when all the actors are in their 20s playing these high schoolers.
Right. The voiceover, I remember correctly, said maybe Grundy really was dangerous as she eyes the football players.
So we'll assume they're in high school. So on the one hand, they play her off as a victim, and on the other hand, they play her off as a villain. And so I'm assuming that's an intentional director's choice, but as I was watching the episode, I found myself getting swept up in emotions, wondering, like, on the one hand, I'd feel really bad for her, and then right after that, I'd be like, wait, no, you're terrible.
I, on the other hand, pretty firmly sit in the place of, she's terrible. She's terrible. She's a sex predator.
Well, yeah.
She's a child predator. She's a teacher who seems to be obviously hunting after young men to take advantage of.
It could be.
And the show continues to make light of this situation and bills it as a forbidden romance. And that's what bothers me the most about this. I mean, you look through it, and when Betty and Veronica both find out, Archie's defense is, now I know me and Miss Grundy together sounds bad. It's like, of course it sounds bad. You're half her age. Veronica even refers to it jokingly as his booty tutor. Which is a phenomenal line, by the way, and I'm going to use it all the time.
It really is a good line.
But the friends are never shocked at Archie's behavior or Grundy's behavior. They're never shocked by it. Instead, they're kind of like, man, you really dug yourself in a pit this time. And that's kind of the worst reactions that they get out of the whole thing.
Yeah, but let's be fair. For high schoolers in today's society, now, I don't know, not all high schoolers, but some high schoolers would be like, wow, you're hooking up with a young, attractive teacher? That's pretty awesome. The reaction that surprised me more than anything was Archie's dad. Because understandably, Betty's mom is really outraged, and you're not really sure if it's half because she hates Archie or half because she's upset at the situation, or maybe all one or the other, but she's totally outraged. And Archie's dad is just kind of like, well, that's not good. I mean, he should be flipping out, right? He should be losing his mind!
He's already proven, though, that he's a pretty terrible father so far in this series.
Well, and yet he still might be the best parent around. We're not sure.
So the episode ends with all the characters just agreeing to let a, child predator roam out on the streets free. A crazy person. A psychopath, if you will.
My theory is this, and let me know if you're with me on this, if you're watching the show. I think that Grundy's ex-husband came after Grundy's new boyfriend, who at the time was Jason Blossom. Because there was a mention that she had tutored Jason. Betty had found that out during her investigation. So what if she did the same thing to Jason, and Jason wanted to leave town, maybe because he knew that the husband was coming after him, but he didn't want to tell anybody because their romance was forbidden. So he tries to sneak away and leave, but Grundy's ex-husband finds and kills him. If that's the case, we will be seeing more of Grundy, that's for sure.
And I think we'll be seeing more of Grundy for another reason. That being, she's the killer.
Ooh.
She's got all the makings of a psychopath. She's preying on younger men. She seems to have a type if she really is into redheads. And if she was doing something with Jason earlier, the timeline would work out pretty well where maybe Jason was trying to start a new life elsewhere with Grundy. She says no, he gets aggressive, she shoots him. Because she's already moved on to Archie. I think what really leads this direction is her final scene in the episode, in which there are young men walking by, and she, after having just been accused and gotten in trouble for being, a child predator, pulls down her glasses.
She gotta
and
see them
looks
young,
at him as they
fine
walk
men.
by. Are you kidding me?
They're portraying her to be a great villain. She's a good villain. You gotta give her that.
If this happened in real life, we wouldn't be entertained. This is disgusting. This show is disgusting.
It's all part of the show. It's fiction.
The important thing to learn here is that it doesn't matter what you do, as long as you do it for love.
This week, we got a special giveaway for you guys.
Oh, thank God. Good news. Yes.
The Goon.
Woo!
The Goon hardcover, library edition, volume 1. Super cool book. Super excited to give it away. How can you win? Look for a video that's going to drop later in the week with our friend Hardcover Reviews. If you haven't checked out his channel, go ahead and do so.
We're really excited about this video. It's something brand new we haven't done before. A collaborative discussion based upon the best sidekicks around.
It's
Details will be in that video on how you can enter to win this particular big old book.
That's right. And as always, check back next week for more Riverdale reviews.
Don't forget to join us for our live show. The next episode is actually going to be on Monday, February 27th. Not the normal Tuesday time. Monday, February 27th. Join us for the live show.
That's Joseph.
That's Tyler.
And this is Super Squad D, where the D stands for Drive-In.
Don't make me do any more of this.